Family, good morning. It is Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. This is Wake Up Bama for Monday, November 24th. Now, in the news this morning, you have Ryan Grubb being mentioned as a coaching candidate for the next job at Cal. Now, on Sunday, Justin Wilcox was fired by the Cal Bears, and ESPN listed a few candidates, all right? Listed. Keep that word in mind. It included Ryan Grubb and former Alabama defensive assistant Tosh Lupoi. Remember Tosh Lupoi? Thought he was a really good defensive coach over here and a really good recruiter. He's now the defensive coordinator at Oregon. I have a source out west, believe it or not, I lived out there, that said that Tosh Lupoi was 200% going to be the guy at Cal. So I know you probably see Ryan Grubb's name mentioned that, and honestly, as soon as I saw Cal, I'm kind of in that same mindset, right? I see a name or a school rather out west, I'm like, oh, Ryan Grubb. But in this case, I think they just listed candidates. I don't think that there's interest probably either way. They probably interested in Grubb. Maybe not, but I think this is more ESPN just kind of throwing something out there. Maybe some guys that would make sense. But I think Tosh Lupoi is going to be the next head football coach at Cal. I'm not a newsbreaker, but just take it for what it is. I think it's going to be Tosh Lupoi at Cal. I do feel that Ryan Grubb will be a head football coach one day, but maybe not right now. And I have to ask you, since the Alabama offense has been sputtering, I don't know how hot his name is right now. Definitely not as hot as when he was at Washington. I mean, it took them a while to get things really cooking. So he just got here. People aren't happy overall with the offense. So I think in time, a big job will open up, and maybe that's the time, but I don't think right now. They're still going to be criticized for that run game, and I think he needs to show consistency and performance in that area before he goes somewhere else, right? Now, Kane Womack, that's a name that I would imagine his agent is getting calls. I have no idea who his agent is. I don't think it's Jimmy Sexton, but Jimmy Sexton is running college football right now. I do know that Kane Womack was targeted by Oklahoma State, but haven't heard anything else. I would imagine that's just probably, maybe they were interested in him. I do feel, like I said, he will be a head football coach again. Sooner or later, I don't know. But Kane Womack, he has the Alabama defense. Number one in the SEC, fam. Number one. And as I said, the reason that I have optimism for Alabama going into this Thanksgiving Iron Bowl is because of the Alabama defense. They tighten it up. They make a couple plays on offense. And the defense plays that with that bend but don't break mentality, plays intense, comes up with some turnovers at Jordan Hare. I like Alabama's chances. And by the way, someone said I was lying this morning on the Facebook. The Facebook channel is crazy. This morning when I woke up, who else saw this? The line had moved down to 3.5. I screenshotted it. And tonight, while I'm cutting this video, it moved to 5.5. So at one point during the morning time, and as you know, the line moves, it was at 3.5 this morning. I promise you. All right. So going back, Ryan Grubb mentioned for Cal, he's not going to be at Cal. It's going to be Tosh Lupoi. At least that's what I heard. Okay. All right. Injuries that we are tracking going into this week. Overall, Alabama is pretty healthy at this point in time. Thank goodness. As you know, we are tracking the injury status of Josh Cuevas, Alabama tight end, that really has become a weapon for the Crimson Tide, right? He's not serviceable. He's not like an extra blocker out there. That's a weapon for sure. So there's some rumors out there on what it could be, but I'm going to wait for Coach Kalen DeBoer and see if he speaks on it on Monday when he has his press conference. He was asked about it, I think, earlier this week, and he said he's kind of just up in the air. I don't think that he, gave like a timetable on Josh Cuevas. Now, if Josh Cuevas can't play this coming week, you have some tight ends that are serviceable, like Brody Dalton. I think he's serviceable. What I mean by that is he can catch like a 10-yard pass, pick up a first down, do some dirty work inside the trenches. Caleb Edwards, I have high hopes for that kid. He's a freshman. Marshall Pritchett, he's another freshman that I think, is coming around. But Josh Cuevas kind of turned into a playmaker. I have him as one of the top 5 receivers overall on this team right now. So we'll keep you posted. It would be significant if he can't play against Auburn in my mind. Okay. I started thinking about this, and maybe we can kind of go back and forth this week on this. But I was thinking keys to the game against Auburn. And the number one thing in my opinion is I don't think that Alabama has to really overthink this. We're making it into the Super Bowl. This is the biggest game in the history of the two teams. A lot is on the line. 1,000,000%. You lose this game, and does the doomsday clock start ticking? Maybe. Okay. But at the end of the day, it's another faceless opponent. I do feel that Alabama has a better team, right? It's just playing over there, it neutralizes things. So I think, number one, don't overthink it from the team perspective. There's going to be so much outside noise, right? The media is going to be going crazy. This will be the most pressure that Coach Kalen DeBoer has ever faced in his entire life will be this week, and then this will be an experience that he's never had before. He's never coached at Jordan-Hare Stadium before. Never. It's different. When you go down to that stadium, you know how it is. It's a feeling that you can only explain if you've been there, right? And it's haunted. That is something that Coach Saban said, and that's the best way to put it. The last 4 games at Auburn have been bananas, right? 2 wins by Auburn, 2 crazy wins by Alabama. 1 game went into 4 overtimes, right? It's crazy. So don't overthink it. Number 2, don't give Auburn momentum. Don't give them a reason to believe. In the games that Auburn has played this year, they've kept most of the games close at half. Nobody has dropped the hammer on Auburn. And I don't think you can give this team momentum, right? Don't let them hit Cam Coleman deep. Don't make it like a 10-10 type seesaw game at halftime. It would be nice if Alabama just came out, kick return, defensive stand, Ty Simpson throws a touchdown, 14-0, 17-0 at halftime. Just like a kind of a dominating, we have something to play for. You're playing for your next head football coach, trying to figure that out, right? Set the table. Become the alpha from the jump. Let them know that you have something to live for, where they're just playing, kind of a let's remember this for the rest of our lives type game. Alabama still has a lot of season left. They win this game. So don't let them believe. And you do that by playing good third down defense. You play that by having some explosive plays, which we already talked about that. There's not a lot on this offense. But with that said, I was like, you know what? How about this for keys of the game? Back to the basics. What for a while when Alabama was playing, I would say their best football, kind of that meat of the season. What were they doing? There was one thing that they were doing. They were playing time of possession football. They were controlling the time of possession. That was like a critical factor along with not turning over the football. Those were like the 2 things that went hand in hand. They lost the time of possession a couple times throughout the last 4 games, and they've lost the turnover battle. They have to regroup and win those 2 areas. And I feel if they do that, that'll kind of nullify like a bad kicking game. That will nullify maybe a penalty or something like that. And by the way, they've been tightening up on penalties. They've been doing really good. I think they have 7 penalties in their last 3 games. 1 versus LSU, 2 versus Oklahoma, and I guess 4 versus Eastern Illinois. So time of possession, a long, sustaining drive, right? Big defense. And big defense is probably going to be the biggest thing and the biggest key to this game. I would imagine that Alabama faces Ashton Daniels, right, at quarterback. And this is a guy, Daniels, who threw for over 300 yards, who looked really good, actually, against Vanderbilt. He's only played in 3 games this season. So, like I said earlier, and I've been saying as I start to talk about Alabama and Auburn, if I am scouting Alabama, I am deeply concerned about how we are going to move the football against Alabama's defense. I think last year, we all knew the recipe. Run at them. Have a running quarterback. Run all over. Maybe you can – you couldn't really beat them or challenge them too much last year over the top. But like this year, man, good. Try to throw for over 200 yards. We've had just a couple quarterbacks be able to do that. They've been able to stop quarterbacks that can run. They've been able to limit the chunk yardage plays. Their red zone defense has been stellar. Their third down defense has been really good. Right? They come up with plays, timely plays. So big defense has to step up. The defense cannot falter in a game like this. And there's a lot of pressure on the defense, but they've been holding the rope. Is there any other keys to the game that you can think of, like in your mind? Let me know inside the comment box, and we'll continue to add like keys to the game throughout this week. Okay. Alabama basketball in action today, taking on Gonzaga. Earlier today, Nate Oates was talking about Alabama basketball versus Gonzaga, and I would imagine when the polls come out on Monday that Gonzaga is a top 10 team, which would mean that Alabama basketball has already played 4 top 10 teams this season. We're not even to December. All right. So here's a quote from Nate Oates when talking about Gonzaga. They're tough. They're physical. They've got a veteran group. They're older. They shoot. Coach Few is one of the best coaches in the country. Go look at the last 10, 15 years in college basketball. There isn't been anybody doing it at a higher level than what they've been doing. They are very good. Tip-off for Alabama basketball and Gonzaga is 8:30 p.m. Central Time on TNT. As mentioned, Alabama basketball has played 3 top 10 teams already this season. Purdue, they lost right at home. St. John's at Madison Square Garden, they won. On the road at the United Center in Chicago, they won. So this would be their 4th team before December. I think the stat reads, over the last 4 years, Nate Oates and Alabama basketball have played the number 1 most difficult schedule in college basketball. He is not afraid to play Elite 8 type teams early in the season, and I love that because you're going to take some on the chin. I don't even know what the line is on this game. Well, I'm not worried about that. I like the fact that they're able to get that experience of high-level play against Illinois, St. John's, Purdue, Gonzaga, battle-tested, right? I do feel that LeBaron Philon, when he's on, he is what's that? I do feel that when he's on, he's one of the best players in the country, honestly. And I do feel that they have a really good bench. I was super, super impressed with Keaton Bristow. 6'10", came in. He's a sophomore. The guy was fantastic against Illinois. Amari Allen. Those guys were close to having double-doubles off the bench. Aiden Holloway, if he gets hot. Wrightsell, right? Like, this team has so many guys, and they can rotate in. But LeBaron Philon, if he needs to take over, like how he took over, I think he finished with 24 points against the Fighting Illini. That guy is just trouble. Absolutely trouble for anybody in college basketball. All right, last thing I'm going to hit on Wake Up Bama this beautiful Monday morning is little Sunday NFL action, and I have to highlight former Alabama running back Jahmyr Gibbs. Am I wrong? What would you say? Who is the best transfer to ever come from somewhere else to Alabama, kind of in this transfer portal world, right? Because he was one of the first guys. As the transfer portal started to kind of exist, he was one of the guys that came over here. There's always been transfers, but that was kind of one of the early guys. Landon Dickerson was a transfer who came over from Florida State. He was pretty good. Who are some other, if we had to put like a top 10 transfers, who's like number one? Who's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Jahmyr Gibbs, when he came over for Georgia Tech, I didn't realize how good he was going to be. Oh my goodness. I've never seen somebody have a quicker burst than Gibbs, and he has field vision. And that's the thing. Like, as we look at our current running backs, do we see any of that explosiveness? Maybe, right? From like A.K. Deere or like Kevin Riley. But I think the biggest question is, can those guys also protect in like a blitzing situation from an SEC type team? That's something that we just don't know. But Gibbs went absolutely crazy against the Giants, and that was one hell of a game. And I firmly feel that the Lions will be there. This is a top-tier team. The other night when they played the Eagles, that game was electric, right? Had a playoff vibe. Against the Giants Sunday, Jahmyr Gibbs, in a 34-27 overtime win, had 264 yards from scrimmage. 264 from scrimmage. And he scored on a 69-yard touchdown in OT. He's lightning. Literally, he's lightning. Check this out. Earlier this season, Gibbs, on a 78-yard touchdown against the Buccaneers, he was clocked out at 22 miles an hour. That's crazy. So, like I said, I think he's the best transfer to come over here. Let me know inside the comment box. Okay. So, that's where we're at today. And I wanted to kind of address, the whole Ryan Grubb deal, because I know you're probably going to see it as you wake up in the morning. I don't think he's going to be going to Cal. That's going to be Tosh Lupoi. And the biggest thing that we're watching on Monday is Josh Cuevas. So news as it happens. You always got 4 a.m. podcast right here on Bama Football on YouTube. And I'm trying to be consistent even in my performance. I was a little bit tired tonight, and I was like, you know what? I got to get it done. Like, I want to be consistent in my approach even during this week, right? Sometimes I think you get into maybe like what could be a vacation week or, time off, kids are home, but like my pledge to you is to be consistent in my performance. Those are one of the elements that I can control, is my consistency in my performance. I'm not going to be, I might not have the best analysis. I might, whatever. We all have our shortcomings. But I think if I could stay in my lane and I can be consistent, then that is something that I can control, right? So thanks for kicking it with me. I appreciate you. Get inside the comment box. Let me know if you have questions about anything that's on the board, or if you want to bring something up, and I will kick it with you guys at 10 a.m. live right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Have a beautiful start to this beautiful week. It's Thanksgiving, right? If you have family coming on to your house, if you're on the road, please be safe, and we'll catch up with you soon, or as news happens right here on Bama Football on YouTube.